Okay, I am super excited today because I get to talk to some old friends, Jonathan and Amanda Texera, who run a website called WalletWin, and they help families with everything budget and money. And we're kind of talking today because all of a sudden in the past few months, it's really come up on everybody's radar out of the blue. Like, we need to make sure that we're financially savvy. We need to cut our expenses. We need to figure out how we're going to do this with all the coronavirus stuff. And then kind of on the darker side too, like, um, am I prepared for what if something happens to me or my spouse financially? Like, what would happen then? And it's kind of a dark topic to talk through, but it's important, obviously. And I think a lot of people have been asking about that in recent days and weeks, just kind of thinking about everyone's own mortality and everything like that. So I want to talk with that with Jonathan and Amanda. But first, so Jonathan and Amanda and I go way back. And I am going to put Amanda on the spot to see if she can remember when we first met.
I'm pretty sure it was when we were health aides.
You got it. I didn't think you would
Yes.
remember that.
Okay. I can't believe it. So for everybody's knowledge, being a health aide, the reason I did that was because it was a job. So I think they paid us like what, $100 a month, and we passed out Band-Aids in our
Right.
dorms.
Right. So yeah, I was thinking about that this morning. I was like, where do I know them from originally? Because you and Catherine, my wife, we're in the same sorority, but
Mm-hmm.
I knew you before I knew my wife because we were health aides together. Sophomore year, you get like a tackle box of like Band-Aids and Tylenol, and I don't think there was much else in it other than like Band-Aids and Tylenol.
Nope.
And then people would like come to you and ask you for a Band-Aid basically. And yeah, you got paid for it. So
And we got paid. Yeah, it was pretty great. I mean, it was a lot of like the pre-med, pre-nursing. I mean,
right.
that's
That's
we're
probably why I did
gravitated
it.
towards that program. So yeah, it was fun. Then when I heard Catherine a couple of years later saying she was going out on a date with you.
That's so funny. Well, I'm glad that you remember that too, because I just thought of that this morning and I was like, I bet she won't remember that, but you have a good memory too. So, Jonathan, Amanda, talk to me about, or talk to my audience really about like what coronavirus has brought into focus for a lot of families in terms of their finances.
Well, more than anything, it's pulled everybody into an unusual time, a time they were not expecting, a time they might not have been prepared for, where all sorts of stuff is kind of up in the air, right? I mean, it's kind of the perfect storm, or I guess a very imperfect storm for a lot of folks, right? The kids, they're not in school, work is affected possibly, just daily life is disrupted. Even we were talking, even folks who stay home, even if maybe you've got one partner, one like the husband or the wife, they work, the other one stays home with the kids. Well, now all the kids are home with them and you can't take them anywhere. You can't go to the zoo. You can't go to the playground. You can't go to the museum or any of those other places you used to go to help them burn off steam or learn things
Right.
or get a little bit of time to yourself to just think a little bit. And so everything can be crashing down around people in terms of the life they used to know and how they went about their days. And of course, money is a big part of those days.
Mm-hmm.
Going to the store to buy groceries or to whatever other things that you need to get. We're having increased costs now with needing to get new resources to actually start teaching your kid at home if you weren't already
Right.
doing that.
Mhm.
Keeping people entertained, keeping people alive and safe and not driving each other crazy. There's a lot going on. And because money touches every part of life, when all those other different parts of life are getting a little off kilter, it can have an effect on the money. And the other way around,
Mm-hmm.
if people's money situation either wasn't very solid to begin with or now is becoming unsteady because of an interruption with work or needing to dip into emergency savings if they had it, that then can radiate out through the other areas of life and make things just come with compounded stress, make it more hard.
I've
harder.
definitely seen that in my practice, just kind of talking through with people what sorts of things they're facing. There's obviously the medical concerns of coronavirus, more so, at least right now in Nebraska, the social concerns, the emotional concerns, the worry and everything like that. And then, like you said, Jonathan, compound all of that with the financial concerns. Like, yes, money was tight before, but now we're getting, furloughed, or we've lost a job, or we're just not getting as many hours because we're not needed as much, around whatever job it is. And we're also at home, and there's all the stress, like you were alluding to or illustrating, of having everybody in a closed system where you really can't leave other than going out in the backyard and keeping everyone social distancing and everything like that. It really adds up, and that's just another thing on top of all of the other stress that people are dealing with right now. So what are families reaching out to you about with regards to finances? What are the things that they're coming to you and saying, how can we use WalletWin? How can we use your knowledge and expertise to help at this moment?
Yeah, we've had many people reach out to us, and it typically boils down to a couple different needs that they're facing. They've either had a disruption in income, or they've realized they aren't prepared savings-wise. So for those who've had an interruption in their income, they're looking for side hustles that they could do safely to kind of make ends meet in the meantime. And we happen to be pros at that. We're kind of like these weird money ninjas who always know how to find money. So we've been sharing those ideas with people.
You guys are really good at that. I will say, like, even from your personal Facebook and Instagram profiles, like, I get the impression that you guys know how to squeeze some pennies out of just about anything, because you guys are really good at figuring that out.
It's a weird knack and a weird talent. Yeah, just a few weeks ago, I don't know if you saw this story, but Jonathan this is totally off topic, but I think it proves a point. In one of our goldfish containers, there were 3 goldfish.
Like the crackers, goldfish crackers.
Okay.
Goldfish crackers. There were 3 goldfish that were stuck together. And Jonathan thought, oh, this is one of those weird food phenomenon. So he went and he listed it on eBay, and he made up a story about the 3 goldfish, Rad, Tad, and Jad, who were so close they couldn't separate. And he made this little story, and he listed it for $150 on eBay as a joke. Couple weeks later, he had a little ping, and someone bid on it for $130.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right? And so that's just one of our...
I don't even think the potato chips that look like Jesus get that kind of cash for it.
I know.
So that's pretty cool.
Unfortunately, he had them stored away, and when he went to reach to grab them, he cracked it. And so, but that's just, for example, of one of the weird little things that we would do as a joke, and somehow money comes.
Well, I've seen so many of the different things like that through your WalletWin and your personal Instagram social media stuff, that clearly, like, if there's a side hustle out there or a way to bring in a little extra cash, you guys know about it. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
story. We've tested it, we've vetted it, and we don't recommend people do like 40 hours of surveys for a $10 Starbucks card or something. Like, we're not fans of that. You can get carried away with the frugal living and side hustles that just aren't worth it. And we don't really spend time on that. We like ones that are really going to give people a bang for their buck. But for the people that have not had an interruption in their income, but they're realizing, oh my gosh, we are literally paycheck to paycheck here. And if something happens, if there's any sort of minor disruption in our income, we'd be just like everyone else, and we've got to get our savings game up. And so we've been working with people about how to do that, how to optimize the money they have right now, because a lot of people, expenses have gone down drastically. We have not spent a dime on gas in the month of April. And I think for a lot of people, that's the case. And so what is a great opportunity right now is to say, okay, none of the money is going out on these things. I can shuffle it right over to savings, and never again am I going to be paycheck to paycheck. I don't want to live that way because it's way too stressful. And I think, as Dave Ramsey likes to say, when the tide goes out, you can tell who is skinny dipping. And a lot of people just don't want to be...
that line. That's a great line.
They don't want to be left in that position. And nothing like a pandemic will take the tide out.
Right. And if you can learn at this moment to manage your finances when things are tight, then when things in however many months we get back to normal-ish, then you'll just be able to live more comfortably within your means rather than feeling like you're still paycheck to paycheck, because you kind of learned how to survive on beans and rice and beans during these lean times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've talked about that a number of times, and we kind of coached a lot of our students as the stimulus checks came in. That's just a great
Mm-hmm.
time to break that paycheck to paycheck cycle and always be a month ahead of your money, so you get even more runway and you're budgeting for the whole month ahead and not money you hope to get. And that's a huge mindset shift, is helping people understand that they can spend money they already have, not money that they know they're going to get in a few weeks, because that has its own stress cycle with it. And so we've been telling people with the stimulus checks that are coming, if their job has been at risk or compromised, they're using it to just hold it, save it, pay basic necessities. Those whose job has not been compromised, but they don't have the savings, it's time to tuck that away and get that savings game up. Sure. Those whose job is still stable and they don't have any debt and they have the savings, they can invest in their local economy. They can invest in the market and try to, take advantage of a downturn and have the advantage of the upswing later, where they can give, or they can be generous with charities right now. And so depending on where people are, they're crafting a game plan with that money that's coming in that's supposed to be an aid, of how to use it best for them in their unique situation.
I think that is like the perfect way to split it up, because you have the stimulus checks coming in. Some people are in the position where they just need that to catch up, and some people are in the position where they can use that to save, and then go forward from there with those savings in place and just breathe a little bit easier that they have that, and they know that'll be there for a rainy day, for a worse turn in the economy or the jobs or whatnot, that they're more secure. And I think that is the biggest thing too, is it's really a mindset shift of being not living paycheck to paycheck, where you're just counting on next month or next week's paycheck to pay the bills that are due right now. Instead, you're living on the money that you already have, not expecting necessarily that the next paycheck's going to come in and it's going to float us.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Yeah. It's just a total disruption in that pattern. And I think it's really helpful for people. And then they have to go through another mindset shift of being able to log into their bank account and expect there to be money. A lot of people, they're afraid of logging in because they're expecting to see nothing. Right. When you're living a month ahead, there's always going to be money in your bank account. And that in itself is another shift that people need to make as they're just beginning to build financial stability in their life.
What do you think, if somebody's unexpectedly caught in this era of difficult finances, what are some things that are kind of the low-hanging fruit that one could say, okay, we're going to cancel this or stop doing that to try and cut our expenses with as minimal disruption to our normal lives as possible? Are there some things that you hear from your students time and again that they found, okay, we could cut this out and continue living in a, relatively undisturbed manner?
Sure. I'd say the thing where people find a lot of those easiest, lowest impact cuts is in the entertainment category. Now, we don't suggest that people just cut everything out, scoop that whole part of their budget out and throw it in the trash can or anything like that. But we found a lot of students that we work with, they are paying for Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime Video and Disney Plus and Spotify and ESPN and HBO and Sling TV and all the you might some folks, they go, I'm going to cut cable. I'm cutting the cord. I'm going to do it all just straight to the content source. And then they rack up an even bigger bill than they had before. And so if for folks, I'd say pick a 2, maybe 3 services that you absolutely are going to hold on to. If you have Amazon Prime, you might be totally fine getting rid of Spotify or whatever else your other music thing is, because that includes a good chunk of music that you can listen to. It also includes a pretty good chunk of video that you can watch. So maybe you nix out Hulu or Disney Plus or whatever else it is that you've got on there that you might not be consuming that much. And so by cutting out a lot of it, you save some money. But by retaining some of the most used, or to you and your family, most valuable services the ones that you end up using anyway, you won't see much of a disruption.
Right. And some other quick ones that we've talked to people about, gyms right now are closed, and most of them aren't even taking people's fees anymore. But if your gym is somehow still taking your money and not letting you come, that's a really easy way to just find some extra money in your budget.
Right.
And then another one would be with cell phones. We've noticed that a lot of people, it's a category there's a lot of overspending on. An easy way to save money there is understanding that there's kind of these 4 main cell phone providers out there. And then there's the lower tiered ones underneath them that they basically buy space on the big. Can you explain this?
Yep. So you've got AT&T, or you got Verizon, you've got Sprint, T-Mobile. They're 2 separate now. They're about to be 1 and be number 2. And then you've got Verizon. And then so they're the top tier carriers. They're the ones who are building and maintaining the networks. And then everybody else out there, every other name that you see out there is buying in bulk, space on their on the other people's networks and then packaging it together and reselling it. And so by finding another operator called MVNO's mobile virtual network operator, by finding one of those that lines up with your particular needs, maybe you don't do a lot of internet streaming, so you don't need a lot of data, or you don't send a lot of text, so who cares if they're in your plan or not? If you find one that has a plan that's lined up with the way you use your phone, you can spend a whole lot less on your cell phone.
That's a great suggestion, because as I think about that more, I'm like, well, it costs what it costs. Got to have the phone. But really, like, I don't even use my phone very much for its phone purposes. I usually, if I can, you just use Wi-Fi. And so, like most of the time, and especially now in the time of coronavirus, like everybody's by a Wi-Fi router. So you don't need to have all that instant access to stuff. And frankly, I don't want people to call me anyways. I always just send it to voicemail and then wait for the visual voicemail if people call me anyways. So, and then texting, you can do the same thing. You can text over Wi-Fi too. So I can see that's a really good, and it sounds like in general, a lot of those kind of subscription sort of services where it's easy to get locked in and they make their money because you kind of forget about it. Like when was the last time we were on Hulu, or when was the last time we went to the gym? Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that we were still getting charged for that. It was coming out of our account or whatnot. So if you can cut back on those sort of things, then you're really not missing out on much. Although, I mean, I would be reluctant to tell anyone to get rid of Disney Plus right now. In the midst
I was about to say the same thing. Cut that one, our house would be over.
No.
Yeah, you
might. Plus stays right now.
Right, you might just go searching through the goldfish boxes for more of those, purple-headed goldfish before you give up the Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit, let's talk about like preparing your finances for if something were to happen to you or your spouse. Like, what does that look like so that, as you go about your day and as about your life, if something were to happen to me, things would be fine. Obviously it would be very difficult and everything like that, but I'm not putting my family in a difficult financial position. I'm not leaving them with a lot of things that they don't know, where the accounts are and, what bills are due and those sorts of things. Do you have suggestions for people that are trying to kind of wrap their head around that for the first time?
Yes, we do. So we have a 8-module course about money, and we have an entire module dedicated to this exact situation. Because, the reality is that someday we will die, or we will become sick or injured to a point where we can't make decisions. And it's dark to think about, and it can be scary to think about, but I think in the day of coronavirus, almost everybody's given it a thought. And I remember that for us, early in our marriage, we were getting on the same page about our finances. We were budgeting, we were paying off debt, and we had a kind of a natural conversation. You don't necessarily want to go there as newlyweds, but we had the conversation of what if something happened? What would we do? And we began to compile this box. Later on, we started calling it our blessing box. And basically it was the box that we put all the essential and important information that the other would need if the worst case scenario happened. And over the years,
I love that
we've seen
name for it too, even. It's just like paints it in such a important positive light.
Yes. Yeah. We wanted it to be that.
If you get everything together and it's all in one place and it's easy to find and easy to go through, and your loved ones can figure out what's going on with your affairs in that time, then they don't have to spend their time and their energy worrying about that piece of it all. They get to just focus on what's really important at that time. And so by being able to give that gift to them, it is a huge blessing. And so, yeah, we could call it the worst case scenario box. We could call it your on your way to the grave box, but it's not really fun. I don't know if I want to work on that one.
Right.
So it's a blessing box, because that really is what it is. It is a huge blessing. It's this great gift that you can give your loved ones in a time of crisis or even after you pass.
It's a blessing to me as somebody that would prepare it too, in that it takes the burden off me to be like, what if something happens to me? Like, they won't know, the access to these bank accounts or where these bank accounts even are at or something like that. Like, it just gives you peace of mind that if the worst were to happen unexpectedly, that things would be okay. Like, they would know where to find stuff.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And over the years, we've unfortunately seen this happen to people where they've been widowed or they become a widower. And, while it's traumatic and sad, the real difference maker between scrambling and struggling for years after their loss and having the space to grieve and kind of get back on their feet in a healthy way, it basically came down to this. Did they have the preparations before the incident happened to actually heal after it did?
Right.
And so that's why we focus on this so much. We're not just, obsessed with death and, the financial realities afterwards. It's that there are just going to be repercussions after something happens. And we want that to be as easy as it can be, even though it's going to be a trialing and tough.
Of course. Right. One less thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. One less thing they have to worry about.
So what should people that are saying, okay, this blessing box idea is quite a good idea, we need to get on this, like, what are the sorts of things that you would recommend that they have in that box so that they're prepared?
Sure. So now when we go over this with our students in that section of our course, we go into these, I think it's 9 different things that you need to have in the box. Mm-hmm. We would be here all day if we were going into all of that right now. So we're opening up the box. We're going to pull out 2 of them that we found are very helpful for folks, and even ones that you might not think about.
I had one more thing I wanted to add before you get into that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the actual box, because we actually have a box, and I think everybody should have one. Essentially, you need to find a box or a vault, something of that sorts that is fireproof and waterproof. Right.
Perfect.
Because if your house burnt down, this is something you don't want to be left damaged by water or fire. Mm-hmm. This is something that, the box also, we like it to be portable. So it shouldn't be 1,000,000 pounds, because when we travel and we have Airbnb guests at our house, for example, we take it with us because we're never leaving that in the possession of someone else.
Right. Sure. That makes complete sense.
So if you need to take it somewhere, it shouldn't be like 2,000 pounds in your basement.
Or bolted to the ground.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Like I'm glad that you mentioned the fireproof and the waterproof, because like the worst thing would be that it's in a shoebox that either gets tossed because it just looks like trash, or something bad happens, like, and then you're without it because of that.
And it should be lockable so that the kids don't just wander on in and start shredding up Social Security cards.
Ours would totally do that. They would draw all over the back of them and put like stickers on them.
Just love to do that kind of stuff.
Oh, for sure. But I like the portable. Ours is not, like, we just have like a little safe where we have our passports and stuff like that. It is not portable. So that's a good point, that it should be something that you could take with you if you needed to, so that it's not, stuck. I mean, our safe is not bolted to the ground or anything. It just has passports and Social Security cards and documents and stuff like that. But it's quite heavy. So
you can have a portable version.
Yeah, that's what we do need. What would you put in that box then? What are those things that you would?
So get into the couple things.
So the 2 things that we're going to pull out today to talk about. The first one is your passwords. So more and more of our lives are lived online. More of our accounts are held online. And so when someone passes or is incapacitated, there is often no way in to any of those accounts to do anything to clean things up, or right, if you have to go through the process of getting the death certificate and providing it to the person and going through all of that, it could just take forever.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
how many passwords could any one person have?
So many, and mine change like
If
I feel
they're
like
doing
all
it
the
well,
time.
they should have dozens, not
Yes.
just like,
here's my password.
It's password 123, guys. Don't worry.
the street I live on with my address, you know.
And an exclamation point. Yeah. So, it's best practice, right? Yeah, you have a unique password for every account that you have, and that you would change them from time to time. So you could, right? There's the old school method of just writing it all out, or having typing it out and printing it out to put in there. However, if you are changing passwords or something comes up, you forgot it, maybe you got to change the password now. You got to make sure you go back to the box and cross it out and fill it out again. And that's a bit of a hassle. Yeah. And so we recommend that people use a password manager. Mm-hmm. Our favorite is LastPass. They have some paid options, some a family plan, things like that. But their free option is really, really robust and powerful. That's what we use. We don't even need the paid one. So they're fantastic. It autofills. It makes it so much easier to be secure. It generates a secure password. It remembers it. It'll fill it in for you. So you don't even need to know what your passwords are. You just need to know your one password, which is to unlock LastPass. And so
that would be what would go
make
in
sure
box.
that is written down and kept up to date inside.
I like that.
Your
That's great
box.
Because it was like so many of them, mine, especially for like the hospital and bank and everything like that, you have to change them so often that I'm always adding extra characters and stuff like that I can remember, but I'm not going back to the box and scratching it out. Like I did that for a while. I scratched it out and then wrote another one. Eventually I just forgot to do that once, and the passwords don't work anyway. So
I think even all of us, even with our own passwords, how many hours of our lives have we lost trying to figure out what the password is?
Yeah, totally. Okay, that's great.
Yeah,
so
quick, just another public service announcement about passwords. Long is always better than like mixed up stuff. Now, a lot of websites or places are going to want you to do some mixed up stuff, capital letter, number, special character. So, but just for your own good, especially for that master password, make it long, make it a phrase or a sentence, something that you can remember. That's just going to be really easy. And so something long is going to be more secure than a shorter thing that's all gobbled up.
I think that's great advice. And I will add my own tidbit for passwords since we're on the topic. The way that I remember, I change my password every year. And I try and change it on my birthday. And my password always includes, as part of the long part, my age in it. And those are the only numbers that are typically in it. And hopefully that doesn't give hackers enough to access mine. I think it's plenty long anyway.
We got them now.
Right, exactly. What that does is it lets me remember what my last password was and the password before that. And I could go back at least 8 or 9 years worth of passwords in my head because I know which one I had when I was 34. I know what password I had when I was 31. So if all of a sudden I have to go back to like some site that I never used for ages to try and get into it, I can just work my way back through those passwords over the years. So that's my password tidbit.
I like that. Yeah, you have your own system. I won't give it away, but
thank you.
It's a combination.
We had a system of stuff, and now I just make LastPass. I just let it generate.
Right.
I don't know any passwords anymore.
Okay, so we got our LastPass password and our passwords that we need in there. So that's one. What's the other one that you're going to share with us that people should put in their blessing box?
Yep. The second thing that we recommend is a sample budget.
Okay.
So this would be something maybe every year it'd be enough for you to go in there and just submit one of the budgets you made that year. Okay. Just because if, especially in the instance where maybe 2 parents passed away suddenly in an accident, and maybe they're adult or teenage children's or a caretaker needed to come in and get a quick snapshot of just bills that typically happen and occur. That's the fastest way where you could visualize all of that without having to go track down all the passwords and log into all the accounts and write it all out yourself. The budget will be kind of like the key to the map, and it'll show you where they have accounts set up, etc. It's kind of the one place you go to find all the information that you need at that given time.
That is great.
Budgets are a great example of the blessing box in action because, if you don't have this set up or you didn't have a budget inside of it, sure, the person who's taking care of things could, they'd have to be monitoring the mail, that what comes in, what bills are coming in. They'd have to be, hopefully they have it, the password to your email address to see what bills are coming in there, figure out what's getting paid, maybe hope their best that they're catching what might not be getting paid, and kept on track of it all. And that's going to take a lot of time, a lot of mental energy that they could be spending elsewhere and addressing what's really going on. And so when you have the budget right there, it's, this, great. It should be about that much. Perfect. And they can just get on with the rest of what's going on.
And it helps them, I'm sure, to kind of just get a glance and a snapshot of, okay, going forward, this is the kind of money that we need to support the lifestyle of the other people, the kids or whomever, so that we know, okay, we got their, like your in life insurance or whatever, here's how we're going to budget that out, because we know based on this sample budget that's in there that they have a Honda payment that's due this date, and they have their water bill that comes out of this account, and that automatically gets paid, and those sorts of things, so that they know going forward what they need to keep an eye on or watch out for. Because some of those things, I'm sure it's like, well, they had this minivan, I wonder if they paid it off, or if they were paying it off or leasing it. Like, we'll just have to wait for a letter from Honda or not to know what the status is on this car, because I don't know their passwords, and I don't know, what's going on with that. Like, there's just so many different little tiny tentacles of that your finances reach into that you don't even think about until something like that comes up.
Yeah. And so, the budget is just, it's a great asset to have inside there. But we've been, running into a lot of people even right now who aren't budgeting even today. So putting it in their blessing box, that's like pushing the cart before the horse. Right. And I think about I forget the exact number, but it's about half of Americans are not actively budgeting every single month. Right. And so we've been working with people in the last few weeks about getting just a budget up and running, because that's going to help them manage whatever money they happen to have right now, or money that's still coming in, and how to make sure it lasts them as long as they need it to in the middle of a pandemic. And so we actually have a free download that people can grab to create a sample budget. What's the URL for that?
Yeah, so it's packaged together with a couple other things that are really helpful right now with everything going on with coronavirus. So go to walletwin.com/COVID. You can download the Budget Your COVID Toe Power Pack and see a pretty amusing music video while you're there.
I saw that music video, and even, that's worth your time no matter what you're doing right now, is to go watch that music video, because I was quite impressed with that. The cinematography, the supporting cast, the music, it's all just top notch. So I will make sure that that's in the show notes so people can click straight away from the podcast episode, from the video, to get to that for the music video value alone.
Yeah, so the videos right on that page, and then it's just a simple download right there, and you'll get a guide that you can learn. There's a visual guide to how to budget. You can go through that probably 5 minutes or less, learn what to do to make a budget. You get our sample, just fill in the blank budget sheet to actually construct your budget, and you get a resource that's going to walk you through a little bit of what we were doing earlier in the episode. We were talking about what should you be doing right now, dependent upon your job situation and your savings and all of that.
That's such a useful resource at this moment, especially when people are stressed about everything and finances. If you can reduce the stress of the finances, that it's just going to pay dividends for the whole family, because you'll be able to enjoy the time that you have together more, if that's not constantly in the back of your mind about finances and the money issues and everything like that. So where else can people find you online? I know you have a podcast called WalletWin Podcast. Where else can people find you online?
People can find us on Facebook, on our Facebook page, facebook.com/WalletWin, or we're on Instagram @WalletWin as well.
It's pretty much wherever you are, just search WalletWin, all one word, and if we're there, you'll find us.
Oh my gosh. Well, it was such a pleasure to talk with you. I do think that there's one password that should go on the fridge, which is your Disney Plus password, because that is a break glass and sort of in case of emergency sort of password. So everything else goes in the safe, but Disney Plus passwords go, either there or just tattooing it to one of the kids so that we always know where the password is for that, because that is vital, especially in It was great to talk with you guys and fun to catch up. And I hope you guys stay well and enjoy those little kids, which, by the way, those little kids, I have not seen them this entire recording. I don't know what they're doing, but you've kept them.
We can only hope it's sleeping.
Miraculously stayed in their quiet times or
Good
destroyed
job.
the upstairs.
Right, exactly. Well, you'll get to see soon enough. So, all right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you
very much, Phil.